Hi everyone! Before we delve into the intriguing world of my video, let me introduce myself. I am Razel Haccp, taking a Bachelor of Science in Tourism of Arellano University. A passionate individual on a quest to uncover new perspectives, share intriguing ideas, and ignite a spark of inspiration. And now, I will discuss the guidelines for Kitchen School Laboratory Food Safety Program based on the process of approach of HACCP principles. Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, or HACCP, a systematic approach to identifying, evaluating, and controlling food safety hazards. It is a globally recognized science-based approach to food safety that addresses biological, chemical, and physical hazards throughout the food chain, from primary production to final consumption. The goal of HACCP is to prevent and reduce the occurrence of food safety hazards. A HACCP plan is a written document that delineates the procedures to be followed based on the principles of HACCP. In order to maintain food safety in face-to-face classes, there are several protocols that should be followed. First, wear gloves and face coverings. Food service staff should always wear gloves and face coverings that covers both the mouth and the nose when working with others and or while preparing or distributing food. This is important to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other illnesses. Second, ensure appropriate temperature control. Any distribution system for school meals modified to COVID-19 will need to ensure appropriate temperature control to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. Some foods requires time and temperature control for food safety, or TCS, and these foods may also be referred to the potentially hazardous food, or PHF. Lastly, shorten client service times and limit unnecessary face-to-face interactions. Consider methods that shorten client service times and limit unnecessary face-to-face interactions. For example, outdoor distribution can be used to limit the number of people in an enclosed space. To maintain food safety when entering the school, there are several protocols that should be followed. First, wash or sanitize hands. Before meals, all students and staff should wash or sanitize their hands to prevent the spread of germs. This is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic. Second, require masks and physical distancing. All students and staff should wear masks and maintain physical distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This is important to prevent the spread of the virus and to keep everyone safe. Lastly, sanitize table and use individually wrapped meals. Tables should be sanitized before meals, and meals should be individually wrapped to prevent contamination. This is important to prevent the spread of germs and to keep everyone safe. To maintain food safety during the laboratory, there are several protocols that should be followed. So first, in preventive measures on kitchen equipment. Clean and sanitize equipment. All kitchen equipment should be cleaned and sanitized before use to prevent contamination. This is important to prevent the spread of germs and to keep everyone safe. Second is to check equipment temperature. All equipment should be checked for proper temperature before use to ensure the food is cooked or stored all at the correct temperature. This is important to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. In preventive measures on preparing and cooking, lastly is to use a food thermometer. A food thermometer should be used to ensure the food is cooked in the correct temperature. This is important to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. To maintain food safety after class, there are several protocols that should be followed. So first, clean and sanitize the equipment. All kitchen equipment should be cleaned and sanitized after use to prevent contamination. This is important to prevent the spread of germs and to keep everyone safe. Second, sanitize tables and chairs. Tables and chairs should be sanitized after meals to prevent contamination. This is important to prevent the spread of germs and to keep everyone safe. Lastly, wash hands. All students and staff should wash their hands after meals to prevent the spread of germs. This is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have here the flow chart inside the kitchen. First, wash hands. Students should wash their hands before handling any food or kitchen equipment to prevent the spread of germs. Second, clean surfaces and equipment. Students should ensure that all surfaces and equipments are clean before use to prevent contamination. Third, follow recipes carefully. Students should read recipes carefully and have all ingredients, utensils, and equipment ready before beginning of cook. Fourth, practice good knife safety. Students should practice good knife safety when cutting food to prevent injuries. Last, clean as you go. Students should clean up spills and messes as they go to prevent slips and falls and to keep the kitchen clean. Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, or HACCP, is a food safety management system that is based on 7 principles. First, perform a hazard analysis. Identify potential hazards that could occur in the food production process. Example, cleaning and sanitizing food contact surfaces. All food contact surfaces should be cleaned and sanitized to prevent contamination. Second, decide on the critical control points, or CCP. Identify the points in the process where hazards can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to an acceptable level. Example, controlling time and temperature during preparation. Food should be cooked and stored at the correct temperature to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. Third, determine the critical limits. Establish the minimum and maximum limits for each CCP that must be met to prevent, eliminate, or reduce hazards. Example, cooking potentially hazardous foods. Potentially hazardous foods should be cooked to the correct temperature to ensure that they are safe to eat. Fourth, establish procedure to monitor. Establish procedures to monitor the CCP to ensure that critical limits are met. Example, cooling potentially hazardous food. Potentially hazardous food should be cooled quickly to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. Fifth, establish corrective actions. Establish procedures to take corrective action when critical limits are not met. Example, date marking and ready to eat. Potentially hazardous food. Ready to eat, potentially hazardous food should be date marked to ensure that they are consumed before they become unsafe. Sixth, establish verification procedures. Establish procedures to verify that the HACCP system is working effectively. Example, handling a food recall. Procedures should be in place to handle a food recall if necessary. And establish record-keeping procedures. Establish procedures to document the HACCP system and to keep records of monitoring, corrective actions, and verification. Example, providing ongoing food safety training for employees. All employees should receive training on food safety principles and guidelines. The prerequisite programs for a student or employee to learn risk management. So first, good manufacturing practices, or GMP, are a set of guidelines that outline the minimum requirements for the production of safe and highly quality food products. These guidelines cover areas such as personnel hygiene, sanitation, pest control, and equipment maintenance. Second, standard operating procedures, or SOP, are written instructions that describe how to perform specific tasks or activity in a consistent and standardized manner. This procedure can help to ensure that tasks are performed correctly and safely. Third, hazard analysis and critical control points, or HACCP, is a food safety management system that is based on 7 principles. This system is designed to identify, evaluate, and control food safety hazards from raw materials production to consumption of the finished product. Fourth, good agricultural practices, or GAP, are a set of guidelines that outline the minimum requirements for the production of safe and high-quality agricultural products. These guidelines cover areas such as soil and water management, pest control, and worker hygiene. Fifth, personal protective equipment, or PPE, is the equipment worn to minimize exposure to hazards that cause serious workplace injuries and illnesses. Examples of PPE includes gloves, safety glasses, and respirators. HACCP terminologies. Critical Control Point, or CCP, is a point in the food production process where a hazard can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to an acceptable level. CCP are identified during the hazard analysis are monitored to ensure that critical limits are met. An example of a CCP is a cooking temperature of meat. Hazard analysis. Hazard analysis is a process of identifying potential hazards that could occur in the food production process. This process is the first step in developing a HACCP plan and involves evaluating potential hazards that may arise during food preparation. An example of a hazard is the presence of harmful bacteria in raw meat. Critical limit. A critical limit is a minimum or maximum limit that must be met at a CCP to prevent eliminated or reduced hazards. Critical limits are established during the hazard analysis and are monitored to ensure that they are met. An example of critical limit is the minimum cooking temperature of poultry. Verification. Verification is a process of ensuring that the HACCP system is working effectively. This involves applying methods, procedures, tests, and other evaluations in addition to monitoring to determine compliance with the HACCP plan. An example of verification is testing the temperature of cooked food to ensure that it meets the critical limit. Corrective action. Corrective action is any action taken when the results of monitoring at the CCP indicate a loss of control. This involves the identifying the cause of the problem and taking steps to correct it. An example of corrective action is adjusting the cooking temperature of the food that is not meet to the critical limit.